How satisfied are you that your vision is actually being realised on TV, given the restrictions of what you can and can't show on TV?
Yeah, no, I mean, we have had very few, and I mean almost no restrictions other than sort of the more sensible ones. I mean, we're not really, but FX has been, they've been pushing us. They want, stranger, weirder, bigger, scarier stuff. So it's great. It's really a great partnership that way. That's exactly what you want to hear.
Well, we know The Strain is based off the trilogy of books that you and Guillermo del Toro co-wrote.
Right.
What inspired you to create such a monstrous vampire? Because this thing is just like a hybrid of so many different vampire genres, like the Aswang and different vampire genres.
Right.
What inspired you guys? Because it's dark.
Right. I mean, no surprise. Primarily, the monster stuff comes from Guillermo. He's like my main resource. But he, in general terms, the first thing that we talked about, he was like, he wanted to make sure that when he says vampire, I wasn't thinking Bela Lugosi or anything else. We were going way back to the earliest incarnation of the myth, which has existed across all sorts of cultures, and why that is, and what are the common denominators, and what really, what's going to make something like that really scary in a very modern time. So taking this ancient curse, this ancient being, and dropping it into modern day New York that was really the first, most exciting thing for me. I'm like, yeah, that is exactly the kind of story that I would love to read, write, watch, experience.
How did the worms come about? Because that's really creepy.
Yeah. Again, I'll defer to Guillermo. I mean, we definitely, the worms are super creepy. Yeah, right? I mean, everyone, that's the word we're getting. Because it's funny, working on a TV show, I get a little immune to it, and now that it's airing, people talking about worms, I'm like, oh yeah, the worms. Because to me, it's like more, concerned with prosthetics and stuff, but those worms are awesome. But yeah, we really thought that it was interesting that there was this sort of parasitic element that would get inside your body and really affect you. And at the same time, it's delivering a virus, so it's two different modes of infection, and just gave us a lot to play with dramatically, with the Centers for Disease Control characters, and then the non-Centers for Disease Control characters, people trying to deal with these creepy worms.
What kind of, in the horror genre, what kind of other monster characters did you grow up with that you were inspired by and you wanted to infuse some of that into The Strain?
Yeah, I mean, I was a huge horror fan, especially like my teenage years. I watched a lot of, back then it was like there was a lot of Italian horror movies, some zombie, some just really strange movies that made no sense. So I was really into that, really into shock and gore. So it was really fun to incorporate that. And at the same time, but try to use it as effectively as possible. But at the same time, to do more, mythological stuff and get into fable and really tell a whole bunch of different stories and not just go for the splatter. Although I love little splatter.
There's a kind of Dario Argento vibe about the aesthetic.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly Argento, Lucio Fulci. Those guys were. I was really into it at the time, and now I feel like looking back, people have given it. I mean, what appealed to me then as a kind of a teenager watching it was how it was sort of outside the mainstream, and these were like, not only scary movies, but movies that you weren't supposed to go see. So that's I try to bring that vibe to this, like that we're showing you something that you don't want to see.
Was Nosferatu an influence because you have the plane flying out from Berlin, and that was also about the.
I have to think about that. Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I know Guillermo's a big. Nosferatu, and also the is it the man from Vampire? The Vampire with Y. It is. I mean, it was fun to sort of play with that and to sort of start with that, and also with Dracula with the ship coming in and the rats coming off. I mean, that's sort of how these stories start. Something arrives, and it's mysterious, and things come off.
Could you talk about your writing process on the novels with Guillermo and how you came about creating this?
Right. Yeah, we met. We had a long breakfast where he had already had like a 12-page outline, which I loved, and we met and he talked about it, and really, he had much more than was there, and I was really excited by it. I suggested a few things, nothing big, but I was just really, really charged up. Literally over the next year, we spent a time going back and forth and refining it, and figuring out if it was going to work, and then we took it to publishers, and they were very excited. So then we, finished it. But it was very much back and forth. I mean, really, sort of growing it. I'd write something, give it to him, he would change it, give it to me, it would be better. I would add my stuff, give it back to him, and it just kept going. My first collaboration with anybody. I'd never worked with anyone else, and it was just great. It's been fantastic, and it continues to be fantastic.